You know, when I think about life, everything we build, everything we chase, everything we imagine, it always comes back to one fundamental force, not innovation, not ambition, love. Love in its purest form is the most powerful source of energy we'll ever know. It's the one thing you can't design in a lab, you can't code into an algorithm, and you definitely can't buy on the open market. It's something that just happens. It's something that transforms you. And tonight I want to acknowledge that power. The power of love and the deep, quiet gratitude that comes with realizing you've experienced it. When you find a person who genuinely sees you, not the titles, not the reputation, not the noise, but you, that's rare. It's a kind of recognition that resets your sense of direction. Suddenly, you're not just building for yourself anymore. You're building for something greater. You start to think differently. You plan with heart instead of ego. You begin to measure success not by what you've achieved, but by how deeply you've connected. Gratitude enters the picture here. Real gratitude is not a transaction, it's an awakening. It's that moment you realize that someone has brought meaning to your chaos. They've stood with you in the storms, and somehow in their presence, everything feels possible again. That's when love turns from something you feel into something you become. It reshapes your decisions, your priorities, your capacity to endure. It's like discovering an internal engine that never runs out of fuel. One powered by appreciation instead of pride. There's something humbling about being loved by someone who doesn't need to love you. Who chooses to. Who looks past the rough edges, the long hours, the failures, and still says, I see you? That kind of love forces you to pause, to listen, to reflect. You start realizing that gratitude isn't just about saying, thank you. It's about showing up differently. It's about being present, about building life worthy of that love. When we talk about progress, we often think in terms of systems, numbers, and breakthroughs. But love, real love, is its own kind of progress. It moves humanity forward in ways technology never could. Because when you love someone, you become less selfish. You start thinking about the long term, not just for yourself, but for the person standing beside you. And when gratitude joins that equation, it elevates everything. You start treating moments like investments, every smile, every quiet conversation, every act of care. They compound over time. And maybe that's the greatest realization of all, that love and gratitude are exponential forces. They multiply with every act of kindness, every shared laugh, every forgiven mistake. They ripple outward, influencing not just your relationship, but your work, your creativity, even your sense of purpose. When you love deeply and you're thankful for it, you can't help but bring that energy into everything you do. The way you lead changes. The way you dream changes. You stop trying to dominate the world. You start trying to uplift it. I've learned that gratitude doesn't weaken ambition, it refines it. Love doesn't distract from purpose, it amplifies it. Because the truth is, love gives ambition a reason to exist. It gives achievement a soul. It gives every struggle a meaning. Without it, we might still reach great heights, but the view at the top will always feel empty. So, to the woman who became the constant in the noise, the calm in the acceleration, and the light in the long hours, thank you. Thank you for reminding me that even the most advanced technology can't replicate the warmth of a simple human touch. Thank you for teaching me that gratitude isn't weakness, it's strength disguised as humility. And thank you for proving that love, when real, isn't a distraction from greatness, it's the foundation of it. Because in the end, no matter how far we go, no matter how much we build, no matter how high we reach, love is the only force powerful enough to remind us why we started. Mistakes are inevitable. They're not glitches in the system, they're part of the design. Every great idea, every bold leap, every meaningful relationship comes with moments when you get it wrong. And love is no different. Love doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for awareness. It asks for honesty. It asks for the courage to look at where you fell short and say, I can do better. There were times I misunderstood what mattered most. I thought effort alone was enough. That as long as I worked hard, pushed limits, built things, and created, it would somehow speak for itself. But love doesn't operate on the same metrics as achievement. It doesn't care about results or recognition. It thrives on presence, on attention, on the small moments that rarely make headlines but mean everything to the person standing next to you. I had to learn that lesson the hard way. When you move fast, you sometimes forget to slow down for the people who move at a different pace. You think you're building a future together, but sometimes in the process, you leave someone feeling unseen in the present. That's not because you don't care. It's because you assume they'll understand. But love doesn't survive on assumptions. It survives on understanding, on taking the time to actually see how your actions affect someone else. And there were moments I didn't. Times when I was too focused on what's next and not enough on what's now. Times when I let my drive overshadow my empathy. Times when I failed to express gratitude, not because I didn't feel it, because I assumed it was obvious. But silence doesn't always communicate appreciation. Sometimes it communicates distance. And when you love someone, distance isn't measured in miles. It's measured in moments lost to misunderstanding. The lesson: love needs maintenance. It's not self-sustaining. You can't just set it in motion and expect it to keep running perfectly. It requires updates, communication, and awareness, just like any great system. It needs honesty about what's broken and humility to fix it. It's not about avoiding mistakes. It's about growing from them. And growth begins with reflection. Looking back not to criticize yourself, but to decode what those mistakes were trying to teach you. I learned that sometimes being right isn't as important as being kind. That listening isn't just about hearing words. It's about understanding emotion. That love isn't proved by grand gestures, but by consistent respect. There's a kind of quiet strength in admitting when you've fallen short. It doesn't make you weaker. It makes you real. It allows you to rebuild trust on the foundation of truth. Because people don't need perfection, they need effort. They need sincerity. They need to see that you're willing to evolve, not for image, but for love. When I reflect on the lessons learned, I realize that every mistake carried a message. Every moment of misunderstanding was a test of humility. And every time I faced the discomfort of being wrong, love offered a way back. Not through pride, but through vulnerability. Because that's where true connection lives. Not in flawless execution, but in shared humanity. It's easy to talk about innovation and risk when it comes to technology. But the real test of courage is emotional risk. Choosing to open up again after failure. Choosing to love deeper even after you've been misunderstood. Choosing to apologize even when your ego tells you not to. That's where progress in love happens. That's how we move from intention to transformation. And the beauty of it all is that mistakes, when seen through the right lens, aren't barriers. They're blueprints. They show us where we need reinforcement, where communication can be stronger, where empathy can expand. They remind us that love, just like invention, is a process of iteration. You keep refining it, version after version, until it reflects something true, something lasting, something worthy of being called real. So, to the woman who stood through the errors, the missteps, the moments I didn't get it right, thank you. Thank you for seeing the man behind the mistakes and believing in the lessons they could teach. Thank you for reminding me that love doesn't require perfection. It requires participation. Because in the end, the greatest innovation in life isn't creating something new. It's becoming someone better. There's something extraordinary about witnessing true strength, not the kind that makes headlines or fills boardrooms, but the kind that moves quietly, shaping the world from the inside out. It's a strength that doesn't announce itself, doesn't demand validation, yet somehow commands respect without saying a word. That's the kind of strength she carries, the kind that holds everything together when things fall apart. The kind that endures, uplifts, and inspires without needing to be seen. When I think about her, I don't think about grand gestures or moments of perfection. I think about resilience, the way she faces challenges with grace, how she stands tall in silence when others would have walked away. She has this rare ability to remain grounded, even when the world around her is anything but stable. And that, to me, is real power. Not the kind that comes from control, but the kind that comes from character. It's easy to underestimate quiet strength because it doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It simply exists. Steady, unwavering, constant. I've watched her navigate pressure, uncertainty, and change, and every time, she does it with this calm clarity that humbles me. Where others might crumble under the weight of doubt, she finds balance. Where others see chaos, she finds rhythm. She doesn't just adapt, she transforms adversity into opportunity. Her uniqueness lies in her perspective. She doesn't just see the world for what it is, she sees it for what it could become. She reminds me that empathy is intelligence in its most human form, that logic without compassion is empty. Her strength is not about dominance, it's about connection. About understanding people deeply, even when they don't understand themselves. She has this way of listening, not to respond but to feel. And that's rare. That's powerful. What makes her truly remarkable is that she doesn't need to compete to prove her worth. She just is. Authentic, intelligent, beautiful in the way that authenticity always is. She's the kind of person who doesn't follow light. She is the light. And you don't realize how much of an impact that has until one day you look around and notice how much brighter the world feels because of her presence. She brings balance to ambition. When I'm focused on acceleration, on moving faster, building bigger, reaching further, she's the one who reminds me of the value of stillness, of reflection, of simply being present. It's not about slowing down, it's about being intentional. She makes me realize that success without meaning is noise and love without depth is hollow. Her strength adds depth to both. And yet, what I admire most about her is that she doesn't see herself as extraordinary. She doesn't recognize the quiet impact she has on people, the way her laughter changes the energy of a room, or how her empathy disarms even the hardest of hearts. She just lives with integrity, consistently. She gives without keeping score. She leads without demanding recognition. And in a world obsessed with visibility, she proves that true influence doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being felt. She challenges me to evolve, not through criticism, but through example. Her courage makes me want to be braver. Her patience makes me want to be calmer. Her kindness makes me want to be better. And that's the greatest gift anyone can offer another person, the inspiration to grow, not because they asked you to, but because their presence reminds you what's possible. In her, I see the essence of what love should look like. Strength wrapped in grace, confidence balanced by humility, intelligence guided by compassion. She doesn't try to change the world by force. She changes it by being herself. And somehow, that's enough. So to her, to the woman whose quiet fire burns brighter than any spotlight, thank you. Thank you for being the constant reminder that real power doesn't need permission, that beauty doesn't ask to be noticed. And that strength, in its purest form, is not about conquering others, it's about mastering yourself. Because in the end, the rarest kind of woman isn't the one who stands above the world, it's the one who stands within it, unshaken, and makes everyone around her rise. Love, in its truest form, isn't defined by what we say, it's defined by what we do. Words have their place, they inspire, they reassure, they comfort. But words, on their own, are only potential energy. Deeds are what turn that potential into something real, something that moves the world. Love in action, that's where meaning lives. That's where emotion becomes evidence. It's easy to say, I love you. It's harder to prove it every single day, especially when life gets complicated, when fatigue sets in, when you're pulled in 100 different directions. Love, then, becomes a choice, a conscious act of showing up, not when it's convenient, not when it's easy, but when it matters most. Because love isn't a moment, it's a pattern. It's built through repetition, through small gestures that might seem insignificant on their own, but over time, form the architecture of trust. I've come to realize that love is not sustained by grand moments, but by consistency. It's in the morning coffee someone takes time to make. It's in the late night text that simply says, get home safe. It's in the hand that reaches out during silence, reminding you that connection doesn't always need words. Those are the deeds that define love. Not the spectacular, but the steady. The ones that quietly say, I'm here. And the irony is that in a world obsessed with speed, convenience, and automation, love remains profoundly human, because it cannot be automated. You can't outsource a hug. You can't schedule genuine care. Love requires presence, physical, emotional, spiritual. It's an investment of time and energy, and those are the rarest currencies we have. That's what makes it valuable. That's what gives it meaning. For me, deed has become a kind of philosophy. If I say I care, how does that care show up in action? If I say I believe in someone, how do I demonstrate that belief when they're doubting themselves? Love, like innovation, demands evidence. It asks you to build something that lasts, not through talk, but through tangible proof, the kind that can withstand time, pressure, and uncertainty. And sometimes love in action doesn't look dramatic. It looks like listening without judgment. It looks like patience when frustration would be easier. It looks like forgiving, even when pride begs you not to. These are the deeds that define the depth of connection. Because love is not a feeling you protect from reality, it's a force you apply to it. You don't love to escape the world. You love to make the world better for someone else. When I think about the woman who inspired these thoughts, I think of someone who embodies love through her actions. She doesn't just say she cares. She lives it. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, every moment of calm and chaos. Those are her ways of saying, I love you, without speaking the words. She understands that love isn't an emotion you feel once. It's a verb you keep choosing again and again, even when circumstances test you. That's what I've learned from her. That love doesn't thrive in theory. It thrives in motion. It's kinetic, dynamic, alive. It's not about grand declarations. It's about doing the small things so well, so intentionally, that they become part of someone's peace. When love is lived out through deeds, it becomes self-sustaining. It builds trust. It creates safety. It turns ordinary days into something meaningful. So yes, talk about love. Celebrate it. Write about it. But more importantly, live it. Let it show in the way you treat people, in the way you protect what matters, in the way you turn care into commitment. Love, when put into action, is the most powerful technology we'll ever possess because it upgrades everything it touches. And to her, the one who has taught me that love is not proven in promises, but proven in practice, thank you. You've reminded me that the smallest deed, done with sincerity, outweighs the grandest words left unspoken. Because in the end, love doesn't need to be said to be understood. It just needs to be shown. Honesty in love isn't always easy. It sounds noble in theory, to be transparent, to be open, to speak your truth. But in practice, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Because honesty isn't just about telling the truth. It's about revealing yourself. It's about letting someone see the parts of you that don't have polish, the sides that are uncertain, vulnerable, and still in progress. And that takes courage. Emotional honesty isn't built overnight. It's built moment by moment, through trust, through mistakes, through the willingness to show up even when you don't have all the answers. There were times I thought strength meant keeping everything inside. That being strong meant protecting others from your worries, your doubts, your fears. But I've learned that silence can sometimes build walls where connection is supposed to live. Love doesn't grow in perfection. It grows in truth. And the most powerful thing you can ever say to someone you love is, this is me, all of me. Not just the highlights, because when you give someone your truth, you give them the space to give you theirs. Emotional honesty means not pretending to be okay when you're not. It means being real enough to say, I'm struggling, or I don't know how to fix this yet, and trusting that the other person won't turn away. It means creating a space where both people can be fully human, flawed, learning, evolving, without fear of losing love in the process. That's what builds the deepest kind of connection. Not the illusion of perfection, but the safety of authenticity. And support, real support, is the natural extension of that honesty. Because once you understand someone's truth, you know how to stand beside them. You don't try to solve everything. You don't lecture. You listen. You hold space. You remind them that they're not alone. Support isn't about fixing someone's life. It's about being the steady presence that gives strength to fix it themselves. It's about seeing potential when they can't see it. It's about saying, I believe in you, not because everything is perfect, but because you believe in their capacity to grow. The most powerful kind of love is one that encourages emotional freedom, the kind where both people feel safe to express, to fail, to feel deeply. It's where honesty doesn't lead to conflict, but to understanding, where vulnerability doesn't weaken the bond, but strengthens it. When love becomes that kind of partnership, it turns into a kind of emotional gravity, pulling both people toward a better version of themselves. I've learned that love isn't about being right all the time, it's about being real. It's about having the hard conversations, the uncomfortable ones, the ones where you admit you're scared or that you've fallen short. It's about choosing connection over ego, empathy over pride. That's where emotional honesty lives, in the moments that test you. Because it's easy to be supportive when everything's going well. The real measure of love is how you show up when everything feels uncertain. To love someone is to promise presence, not just physical, but emotional. It's saying, I'll be here, even when it's heavy, even when I don't fully understand, I'll stay. Because sometimes love isn't about solving, it's about staying. It's about holding steady while the other person finds their footing. It's about being a source of light, not by overpowering the darkness, but by refusing to leave them in it. And that's the promise I've come to understand. To love with truth, not pretense. To speak honestly, even when it's uncomfortable. To listen with patience, even when it's inconvenient. To offer support not as an obligation, but as an act of devotion. Because emotional honesty is what gives love its depth, and support is what gives it endurance. To the woman whose presence has made vulnerability feel like strength instead of weakness, thank you. You've shown me that being open doesn't make you fragile, it makes you free. And in that freedom I've found something worth protecting, worth nurturing, worth building forever. Because in the end, love isn't measured by how perfectly we hide our flaws, but by how courageously we share our hearts. Hope, it's the one thing that keeps love alive through every challenge, every season, every uncertain turn. Without hope, love becomes static, trapped in the memory of what once was. But with hope, love keeps evolving. It adapts, it grows, it becomes something that doesn't just survive time, but transcends it, because real love doesn't stay frozen in the past, it looks forward. It imagines, it believes that the best days are still ahead, no matter what's come before. There's something deeply human about that, about our ability to hold on to hope even after disappointment, even after pain. Hope is what drives us to try again, to rebuild, to forgive, to dream. It's the quiet whisper that says, we're not done yet. And that's what love at its core really is. A declaration of continuity. A decision to keep choosing each other. Not because everything is perfect, but because the journey still has meaning. When I think about love in that sense, I realize it's less like a moment and more like a mission. It's not just about how you feel right now, but about the vision you hold for what comes next. Hope is the blueprint for that future. It's the force that carries you through the times when emotions fade, when life gets messy, when uncertainty creeps in. Because love isn't meant to stay in its first form, it's meant to evolve with you. Hope gives it that ability to transform without losing its essence. And when two people share that same sense of hope, it becomes powerful, almost unstoppable. It means they can face change without fear. It means they can weather distance, doubt, and difficulty without losing faith in the connection that brought them together. It means that even when the road bends, they walk it with trust, because they know the story isn't over. It's just moving into a new chapter. I've come to see that hope isn't blind optimism. It's a kind of intelligent faith. It doesn't deny reality, it acknowledges it, and then chooses to believe in what's possible anyway. It says, yes, things are hard. Yes, we've made mistakes. But we're still here, and that means there's still more to build. That kind of hope turns love into an engine of renewal. It keeps it alive, relevant, forward moving, and that's the beauty of continuity. It's not about holding on to what was, but carrying the essence of it into what's next. It's about understanding that love, at its strongest, isn't just a feeling between two people. It's a legacy. It's the way you impact each other's lives so deeply that even time can't erase it. Continuity means that even as you both grow and change, the love you've built becomes part of who you are, embedded in your choices, your dreams, your courage. To the woman who has been the embodiment of that hope, you've shown me that love isn't something we keep, it's something we cultivate. You've taught me that continuity isn't about never changing, it's about changing together. It's about adapting, learning, and staying open to what the future can bring. Because the truth is, love that refuses to evolve eventually fades. But love that grows, that listens, that forgives, that believes, becomes timeless. So here's the message I want to leave, not just for you, but for anyone who's ever loved deeply. Keep believing in what's possible. Keep showing up for love even when it feels uncertain. Keep building even when progress feels slow. Because love, like innovation, is built on persistence. It's not about avoiding failure. It's about never giving up on what truly matters. Hope is the most human thing we have, and love is its greatest expression. Together, they create continuity, a promise that no matter how much changes, the essence of what connects us endures. And so, to the woman who has been both anchor and horizon, thank you for proving that love doesn't end when the moment fades. It continues when faith remains. Because in the end, the most powerful thing two people can share isn't a perfect love story. It's an unfinished one that keeps writing itself every single day.